time. This is a very, very important meeting, so we're trying to stay on time and not waste your time, and so you can head out then. Who still needs to go to the general session? Okay, we'll make sure that you can get there on time.
And then some of you guys still have country specific after this, yeah?
Yes. So none of you should have to stay here beyond 2:20, I think. Everybody should be out by then at the very latest, if not after this session. But let's have Rebecca get started with a few points on course equivalencies, and then I'm going to talk about some expectations, deadlines, and what's to come this next year. All the exciting things.
So on your handouts, there's a stapled copy that is from the IGP student manual, if you want to pull that out.
Everybody have the handout?
And flip to the second page where it says page 13, that's where I'm going to be talking from. This topic should be mostly review for you guys. How many of you guys have submitted at least one or two course equivalencies for approval? Okay. Ideally, everybody would be raising their hands at this point, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit. The idea of course equivalencies is you guys are going abroad on exchange. You're taking coursework with a foreign university. They're going to issue a foreign transcript, and then your study abroad advisor has to take that foreign transcript and translate it into NAU coursework that gets on your NAU transcript. If you guys don't go through the course equivalency process, basically you have an entire semester of coursework outstanding and you will not graduate. They will not let you graduate if you guys don't take care of this situation and get all your courses back to NAU. So it's really important. There's no way around it. And one way or another, you guys are going to have to complete your course equivalency.
If you want to graduate.
We've had students in the past who have delayed and delayed and delayed, and it only makes it harder. So I know about half of you guys haven't even started. Don't delay it any longer because you're going to be hating your life later on, I promise. You should have heard about this a little bit at your country-specific sessions. If you heard anything from your study abroad advisor that's slightly different than what I'm saying, because each advisor is a little bit different, listen to what they said as far as the how it goes. But if we're talking about deadlines and things like that for getting your course equivalencies done, you want to follow the IGP deadlines. Okay, with that said, the process of course equivalencies is this. You need to look at your foreign university, at the courses that they offer. So you have to figure out their course catalog system on their website. This is a good introduction to their website if you haven't been looking at it already. And it's a good way to figure out what is offered and what's going to be available to you guys. When you're looking at available classes and courses in the course catalog at the foreign university, you want to pay special attention to when courses are offered, because you guys want to be looking at the ones that are offered in the fall semester. If you are in South America, keep in mind that fall semester is actually semester number 2. So you need to pay attention to these details so that you're not getting to your university and thinking like, oh, I was going to take this class, but it's not offered until the following semester. So keep that in mind as you're looking through for potential coursework that you can take. So when you're going through the catalog and you're trying to decipher what you should take, you want to keep in mind what you have left to take at NAU to graduate and what courses might be fulfilled that you need at NAU abroad. Does that make sense? And so you guys have already done work with Lily talking about what courses you need to be taking, so keep that in mind. And you're reading through the course description and saying, oh, this class sounds pretty similar to the 300 level biology course that I need to take, or the depth elective for my mechanical engineering, or whatever it is. And so that's the work that you have to do. You have to read the course descriptions, you have to think about it and think, does this work? This is not a job that you get to say to your advisor whenever you get abroad and say, I need this class at NAU. You read the whole course catalog and tell me what to take. That doesn't work. It doesn't happen that way. You guys have to do this legwork yourself. This is also something that you can't go to your study abroad advisor and say, I need this class. What can I take abroad? They're not going to know. So this is stuff that you guys really need to be in charge of when you're just identifying what classes you want to take. The other thing is a lot of students get to take like depth electives or breadth electives or kind of major elective work. This is an opportunity for you guys to take classes that you want to take. So read through the descriptions and take classes that sound interesting to you that you want to be taking while you're abroad. Once you've kind of figured out what you want to take abroad and what you want it to come back to NAU as, that's when you need to kind of put all that information that you found together and you send it off basically to get approved by an advisor. If you want something to be coming back as mechanical engineering, that means that you go to your first your mechanical engineering advisor and say, I'm going to Spain and I'm taking this foreign course and I've translated it into English for you and I want it to come back as this NAU course. And you give them a nice, neat package of information and then they say, yes, I approve this, or this looks good, but I'm going to need to see the syllabi whenever you're in country, or no, this isn't even close, what are you talking about? And you go back to the drawing board. If you want language credit, you need to submit that to your language mentor. So whoever's going to be approving it is by the college. If you end up taking something super, like, not related to either major, like you have enough space to take an art course or something like that, and you want it to come back as art, then you have to get that approved by an art advisor, and the study abroad website at abroad.nau.edu has a full listing of who you contact for those other courses that are outside your major. That's probably not going to happen because the way foreign universities are set up, but if you run into that situation, that's how you handle it. The biggest thing to keep in mind while you're doing this is to keep your study abroad advisor in the loop. Some students email solely with their advisors and they get courses approved, and then they're like, well, why isn't this on my transcript? Well, it's because your study abroad advisor is the one who does the paperwork to talk to the registrar to get it sent off, so they need to know. So once you get that final approval, if your study abroad advisor isn't copied on that communication, forward it on to them or put it, if they want you to do it in the online application, studio abroad thing, put it in there. Each advisor likes to do it how they have their own process. You should be doing this now, and ideally, you would be getting twice as many courses approved as what you're planning on taking. So if you're planning on taking 4 courses in the fall, ideally you would have 8 courses approved to come back to NAU. The reason why we suggest this is because just like at NAU, sometimes classes are full. Sometimes you thought it was going to be offered in the semester that you're there and it's not. So all sorts of things can happen. Your schedule might get shifted around a little bit when you go abroad. But if you do this legwork here, it's so much easier because you can walk into your advisor's office and say, this is what I'm looking at, this is what I translated, here's all my information, do you have any questions? And you can have that conversation face to face, rather than being abroad and saying like, oh, here, I'm sending you an email, and oh, you need something else, let me find that and send that to you, no, you still need something else? And it turns into this like 20 email exchange thing that's really complicated. So that's why we suggest students do it now on campus. Once you get abroad, you will eventually enroll in classes, your course schedule will be all finalized. Hopefully, if you did your legwork and you had a bunch of pre-approvals, you should be good to go. If something changes and you still have a class that is not approved to come back to NAU as a specific class, you need to get that taken care of your first 2 weeks that you're abroad and in class. Your schedule has been stabilized, you can talk with the professor, you can get a syllabi, you can get any additional information that you need to have, but you should be sending that off within 2 weeks, asking for the course approvals and sending all the information that your advisors need to do those course approvals.
We do need this at the very latest by November 1. So we do need you to, once you start, there's going to be different timelines for each of you because each of your semesters and each university has a different start date. But we do want everything in at the very latest by November 1.
Do you guys have any questions about the course equivalency? Yeah.
So one of the things my advisor told me I need to do is take my major electives. So with construction management, it's like 300 levels. But when we go abroad, another thing that I was having a problem with is, can we enroll in like upper division classes there? But like some of the classes there build off of like previous classes, and we have no experience in. Like I'm looking into like architecture class, but I've never taken an architecture class. But I need a 300 level here, so can I do architecture 3 there?
You should be able to. Do consult with Dr. Nara as you're navigating this to see what actual prerequisites Saragossa has for you, to see if you're eligible and how to navigate that. Sometimes you could maybe even take, because it's not offered here, an architecture 2 class, something about low level, that is still a legitimate elective to broaden the horizon of your education. So you can navigate that, and the course content is what matters. So this is what you will take to the chair of construction management and civil engineering and say, hey, will this do as an elective? Bear in mind too that university levels kind of like as far as content shift a little bit. It's not as clearly 100, 200, 300, and it's not structured that way. So what really matters at the end of the day is the course content. And this is what you need to translate, this is what you need to show with the syllabus, course descriptions, and other information you may have, exams from your course that you will show your advisor here and say, look, this is all I have, here's the translation, here's the description, and this is what I'd like you to come back as. Chances are, the advisors understand that there's going to be some differences and that you're not going to be able to, take a super advanced course. We also want to make sure that you're successful in taking that course, because a grade will count. Alex.
Before we get back, can I add
Yeah,
a couple
please.
things about that? Keep in mind that it's almost never a one-to-one plug-in.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's going to be a negotiation. So Danielle can talk about the problems of plugging, there was a cellular cultivation class into Spanish credit. It's not that easy. So just make sure that you're communicating. A couple of other pieces of advice. Remember the credits, the way they show up for our university, the 3 credit hours, 1 credit hour, are based on contact hours. So you might be taking something that's like a 6 credit course in their university that comes back as 3 for us. So make sure you're paying attention to contact hours face-to-face in the class so that the proper number of credits for NAU can be plugged in. And the key point that Lily said is just because it's a 300 level here, look at the content. A lot of times our 200, 300 level courses are their introductory courses because they don't have the broad liberal education that we do. You're in what's called a carrera or in Spanish or just your career. You're taking classes in your specialized discipline. So you're taking what a lot of times you're taking these 300, 400 levels is building the basic education. So look at the content and say, this is what this course will cover, what course does it fit in within the catalog of NAU. And so look at the content of the electives that you're interested in and find courses that make that content. You would be surprised and don't just go straight to the 300 levels because those could be way out of the league of what you're looking to do, especially if you're taking it in your target.
I can add to that. No, if you're talking about prerequisites, the way the university structure is set up is you don't have to worry about prerequisites. I was just going to suggest that be cautious when you're looking at classes in the later years. It's more a matter of can you successfully complete that class without the prior knowledge that they have. They're not going to require you to take something before it, but it's more your own assessment. So along
And
the
it
same
will be
lines.
your own assessment too, as far as like comparing with the NAU catalog description. It's like, hey, this is pretty close. So you take this content, translate it to your advisor and say, can I do this?
Okay.
And not even going into the
University
T3.
setup, isn't
Talk to people that have been inside of GoSo. We can tell you.
I've talked with her for like an hour and a half.
And you're still scared of the process. Yeah. And the navigating the website is a very different animal.
Yeah, so I know like how in Germany they tend to have this kind of similar system where like you have to like organic focus on like more sort of feature. What are they able to take like classes like outside of major like nature related like that?
Yes, but you want to carefully navigate that, and you will work with Marita on this as you're starting your process in constance. So you will be able to, but the challenge is, and that's across the board, is that because they're kind of preset like this within their cohorts, it's hard to break out of that because it's kind of, everybody takes the same set of classes and that's expected at that different level. So as soon as you break out, you're already the odd person in because you're coming in from a different university, but then as soon as you start breaking out of that, it makes it quite difficult for you to navigate it. So we can look into which courses you actually need, but Marita is the one who's going to be able to help you. Yeah.
To get credit for like liberal studies classes, does that need to go through the part thing?
Yes.
So it's like an anthropology class, it needs to be approved through the anthropology department. Okay.
Be very, very careful trying to get liberal studies courses abroad because those are very specific courses. We go through a rigorous application and vetting process at this university in order to fit within the parameters of the liberal studies. So that's probably the most difficult transfer back is a liberal studies course. Look for your electives and your major courses, and keep your liberal studies for like the last semester when you're back on campus when you can pick them here. Because it's a whole different process. It's not just liberal studies, it's not just the mentor, it's not just the department, it's not just the education study brought, then you're bringing in liberal studies as a
with the SEPA, it's a little different because it's an American system. They actually fulfill the liberal studies requirements. So the courses that Ms. SEPA themselves offer, you'll be very, most likely just fine.
Caution if you're looking for ethnic diversity, because that's just not going to happen.
Ethnic and global diversity are not going to happen.
Global diversity is okay, but ethnic diversity is all about U.S. ethnic diversity, so that's going to be really hard to find. You guys good with course equivalencies?
Quick question, I've heard things about double dippers. Is that not a thing? Like, so if I'm taking Architecture 101, it's just going to come back to say major elective, hopefully not Spanish. Okay, makes sense. Okay, making sure.
Yeah, you want to navigate that very carefully. Typically, we don't recommend it.
Okay, I just wanted to hear from you both.
Yeah, you need to take a full set of courses anyways. 2 of them need to be Spanish, 2 of them are going to be your electives. So that's 4 courses plus the IGP course. That's a full load. So that's what we recommend. Double dippers are a tricky one. So okay, so I also want to get you all to, well, one. These documents will all be online. They're going to be on the website, and I'm going to post them on Group Rainbow. Go ahead, Tim.
Sorry, just to build off that last one. So if we're not, so say if I take 4 classes on architecture, 2 of them are going to transfer to Spanish classes, and 2 of them are going to transfer to Spanish classes. Or do we have to take specific Spanish classes there?
You don't have to, but this is something you want to work with your mentor with.
Okay.
To make sure the class content will actually fulfill the Spanish language requirement.
Okay, because some of our universities, like, they don't have Spanish
That's
classes.
right.
But they do have humanities classes.
Yeah.
So, for instance, there's a student who's in Zaragoza this semester that took an editing class. It's an editing class in periodismo, in journalism, where they work on editing papers, and so that can come back as like a Spanish 404 credit because you're working on it in that. Don't just take architecture classes and expect them to magically plug into Spanish. Look into humanities. Because they don't have Spanish classes per se, but a lot of times culture, literature, humanities courses will be very much a realistic possibility.
Okay.
Okay, so I have 15 minutes left to cover